Just a few weeks ago, we announced Cortex XDR 2.0. Coming up, we'll dig into it with Nir Zook. We'll see what Unit 42's been up to. Then we'll go one-on-one with Lee Klarich on how Cortex XDR continues to deliver on its mission of enterprise-scale detection and response.
Thanks for joining us. Today, security operations is a tough place to be. Large enterprises are spending millions of dollars to stay ahead of sophisticated attacks. And there's a whole bunch of vendors out there providing a whole bunch of point products that don't talk to each other, leading to wasted time, manual intervention, and at the end of the day, worse security and a whole bunch of frustration. We're going to show you a better way with some seriously game-changing announcements today. So let's get started. In a bold move, we recently announced Cortex XDR 2.0 with the ability to ingest third-party data, allowing the product to operate across all next-generation firewall logs, not just Palo Alto Networks. Here to talk about XDR is none other than Palo Alto Networks founder and CTO, Nir Zook. You've heard him talking about redefining technologies with his own unique flair. So let's get right into it. Nir, why did the industry need a category of technology called XDR?
Jamie, we needed XDR because data has become very important to drive machine learning, artificial intelligence, to drive automation in the security operations center. We can't count on the SIEM to collect data. The SIEM just collect logs and other things that aren't very meaningful for machines to process. What we needed is good data. Data, high quality, that's able to drive machine learning. And we created XDR to collect it from all sorts of sources, as opposed, by the way, to some other attempts to collect data for machine learning and automated processing from specific sources like host, EDR, and network for network traffic analysis and so on.
Interesting. So how is that different than EDR?
You know, Jamie, first, EDR is one of the most stupid ideas I've ever heard about in cybersecurity. You see, attacks really span the entire infrastructure. Network and endpoint and network again and endpoint and SaaS, and depending on the attack. And it just doesn't make any sense to limit yourself to collecting data just from endpoints, processing the data just from endpoints, and then responding back just to endpoints. I think it only makes technical sense to collect data from as many sources as you can, preferably from the entire infrastructure. Let the machines, let the AI process the entire data at once, find the attacks within the entire infrastructure, and then respond back to the entire infrastructure.
Okay, so if it's not EDR and it's collecting a lot of data, do I still need a SIEM?
SIEMs collect logs, they don't collect data. And those logs are useful when you're in a forensic analysis situation. There is a breach, you need to know exactly what happened, who talked to whom, and so on. This is the kind of information that not necessarily you're going to find in something like XDR because it's not that important for machines to be able to identify bad things. But it is important in some situations where you do forensic analysis, and that's what the SIEM is useful for today. I think as XDR collects more and more data from more and more sources and processes that data automatically, not just for detecting bad things, but also for automating investigations and automating other things, then the SIEM will become less and less important. You will find all the data that you need in XDR.
Makes sense. So you mentioned a particular set of words in there that I really want to kind of dive in on. Can you help us distinguish between the truth and the hype in ML and AI?
Of course. So first, AI, ML is not just one thing.
Okay.
There are many different ways to do machine learning and AI. You can use it in many different applications. We use it in many different applications that have nothing to do with XDR in many different areas, and they're being used in different ways in different places. Okay. Specifically for automating the process of detection and response, I hear it from a lot of vendors that claim that they do that, but when you get down to the details and when you ask these vendors, and I asked all of them because they all came here begging us to buy them, when I ask them, so give me an example of how do you use machine learning / AI to detect something bad, they all give me the same example. If you have an employee working both in two different locations at the same time, then it's bad. Wow. Can't happen. time travel. They call it time travel. That's not AI. That's not machine learning. That's a rule. Specifically for XDR, our approach to machine learning is to hire ex-government offensive experts and teach them machine learning if they don't know that yet. Some of them do, some of them don't. And then have them program machine learning models to defend against their capabilities, the capabilities that they used in the past when they were working for different governments around the world.
Wow. So you mentioned another thing that I think was really interesting, and I want to kind of dig in on. You talked about automation. How does automation play into XDR as a product, as a category, and how does it work?
So XDR automates a few things. Many things that the SOC does today manually, XDR will automate, usually in the context of detecting and dealing with incidents. So XDR will automate hunting, right? Collect a lot of data, run machines on it with models that were created by offensive experts, detect bad things. XDR can also automate investigations. Specifically, XDR can create a timeline of events. Because we collect data from all these different sources, we stitch the data together into timelines so that when you're in an incident response situation, you don't have to go to your SIEM and spend hours, sometimes days, going through gazillions of logs in order to stitch together what happened. XDR will stitch that to you. So XDR does hunting, it does investigations. It can also take different alerts from different sources as part of the stitching process and create incidents from them. Okay, so group alerts into incidents. And of course, XDR does the response.
Right.
So hunting, investigation, grouping of alerts into incidents and response are the things that XDR automates today, and I'm sure in the future it will automate more things that the SOC does as part of its incident response process.
Wow. So do you see a day when there's a completely autonomous SOC?
Maybe, probably not. I don't believe in full autonomy when it comes to running something like a SOC. I don't believe, by the way, in self-driving cars either. Certainly not in the next 10, 20 years. But we certainly are working more and more towards, of course, as much automation as possible. If you look at the stats for XDR 1.0 versus the stats for XDR 2.0, you will see improvement in the amount that's automated. And if you add the SOAR, Security Orchestration, Automation, and Response product to it, like the MISTO, then you get even higher level of automation. And over time, you will see more and more and more of that, so that your security operation center analysts will be free to do things that machines can't do, like hunting to a level that machines cannot get to, and potentially other things as well.
Speaking of which, we had our XDR product recently deployed in a particular customer's network. And as part of that, there was a particular breach that had been running for 4 years. And we'd like to let's walk through the video.
During a proof of concept at a multinational corporation, Cortex XDR discovered an ongoing cybersecurity attack launched by a disgruntled former employee. The attacker used his old VPN credentials to repeatedly steal source code data, tunneling it through an unmanaged testing computer to avoid detection for over 4 years. Once Cortex XDR was configured, its artificial intelligence quickly identified the suspicious tunneling activity. Cortex XDR performed additional analysis to validate the threat before flagging the security team, who quickly remediated the vulnerability and, one would assume, started legal action against the attacker.
Wow, Nir. So for 4 years, this company had been breached.
Yep.
Any comments on this?
So first, they had all the security products in the world during those 4 years. But Jamie, look, when we say that you need data from the entire infrastructure in order to detect some of these more sophisticated attacks, even simple ones like the one we've just seen, we're not kidding. It's not a spin. It's not something that we say because we have both network products and endpoint products. So, let's just tell customers that they need both in order to be secure. No, you need data from the entire infrastructure, in this case, network and endpoint, to detect some of these attacks. And there's just no way around that. In this case, collecting data just from endpoints didn't work. Looking just at network traffic didn't work. You needed data from both.
Right. So speaking of which, we just made a big announcement which had to do with collecting data from third-party solutions, specifically different firewall vendors. Why did we do that? Why is that interesting?
We did it because Palo Alto Networks is not deployed in the entire infrastructure of some of our customers. There are some customers that replaced everything they have with Palo Alto Networks, and I thank them for that. I think they did the right thing. But some customers haven't yet. Maybe they're in the process. Maybe they have their own reasons for not doing that. And of course, there are competitor firewalls. And by the way, not just firewalls, there are other products that in the future we will be bringing in. Remember, we only collect data. We don't collect logs. So we collect things that can be used for analytics. And in order to complete the picture, in order to be able to detect attacks and respond across the entire infrastructure of customers that don't have a heterogeneous environment, we added collection of data from third parties.
Thanks, Nir, for your time and your insight. Appreciate it. Next up, as you know, Unit 42 researchers are no strangers to uncovering intense threats globally and focusing on how spies, terrorist activities, and military personnel craft attacks to complete whatever particular mission they have today. Here's a quick look at just some of the big threats they've uncovered this year alone. We caught up with Unit 42 leader, VP of Threat Intelligence Ryan Olson, and product management lead Liat Hayun at Ignite Barcelona a few weeks ago to learn about the upcoming Cortex Threat Hunting Service, which is currently in beta.
For the past 6 years, Unit 42 has been analyzing the data available to Palo Alto Networks to better understand adversaries and how they attack our customers. We use the information from WildFire, the world's largest, most widely deployed sandbox, and the rest of our platform to analyze the malware that's attacking our customers, as well as the tactics that adversaries are using. With this new service, we can bring the threat intelligence and expertise of Unit 42 directly to bear on customer networks to help them understand the context around the threats that are directly targeting them.
All this information is being delivered proactively to the customer so they can take definitive action to contain the attack. We are already piloting the service and seeing the great value that customers are receiving from it. The service will be generally available early next year.
Next up, I know you guys have been waiting for this. Let's walk through the details of Cortex XDR 2.0. And here to walk through it with us is none other than Lee Klarich, our Chief Product Officer. Lee, we've got a lot to cover. We're really excited about the release of Cortex XDR 2.0. Can we walk through some of the highlights of this feature set and kind of what we're bringing to market?
Thank you, Jamie. Yeah, we're really excited about this release. XDR 2.0 is a big release. We've got a lot of capabilities. I'll sort of highlight 3, though, in particular, that are the biggest, most impactful. Number 1, we are supporting third-party data from an analytics, investigation, response perspective. That's big news. Yeah. Second, we're now fully integrating Traps into XDR, so we can have a fully unified experience end-to-end. And third, as part of the process of bringing endpoint protection into XDR, we've also upgraded the protections that we can provide on the endpoint.
So you mentioned that EPP has changed and is now part of the XDR solution. So what does that mean for Traps?
Yeah, part of the definition of XDR is we want to collect data from as many rich, good data sources as possible. One of those really important data sources is the endpoint, in addition to network, cloud, and other data sources. So on the endpoint, to collect this rich data, we need to have an agent there. That agent collects lots of really important data that drives the analytics as well as investigation response capabilities. But once you take up that real estate of being on the endpoint doing that, it's then really sort of obvious that you also want to use that opportunity to prevent as many attacks as possible up front, so you get clean data coming in. And then you also want to be able to use that as a feedback mechanism. Anything that's detected from the analytics, you want to be able to have feedback mechanism to update it so you don't have to see it again. So that's the context for why this is really important. And so when we launched XDR earlier this year, we were bundling Traps with XDR. So any customer who bought XDR would automatically get Traps with it. What we did with this release, though, is we've now fully integrated endpoint protection into XDR. So it's a full end-to-end unified experience for the customer from endpoint protection through the analytics, investigation, and response.
That's great. So you mentioned that we had some improved detection capabilities. I've heard a lot of buzz about this at our recent Ignite conference. Let's walk through that. What does that mean?
we believe in this multi-method prevention where we can use local analysis to prevent attacks driven by machine learning. We can do this, prevent attacks using cloud-based analysis tools. We can do exploit prevention, looking at the techniques. We can look at behaviors. We can stitch all of that together to understand end-to-end. So that's our approach to endpoint protection, and our goal is to be the best at all of those different components. With this release, the piece we upgraded was that local analysis module. What that means is we're now using even better machine learning to detect malware on the endpoint and prevent it before it's even allowed to execute. We've seen through the improvements we made up to 10 times improvement in accuracy based on this new engine. Wow. So super excited about it.
Yeah, that sounds really exciting. So what does this mean if I'm a Traps customer today?
So if you're a Traps customer today, over the course of the next few months, we're going to start upgrading existing customers to these new capabilities. And if you're not a Traps customer today and you're looking at XDR, what this means is starting in actually today, if you become a customer, you're going to get all these capabilities. Either XDR Prevent, if what you want is endpoint protection as part of this new unified experience, or XDR Pro, which is the full set of XDR capabilities for both prevention as well as detection response.
Wow. Well, I'm really exciting. So I'm going to switch gears on you. You mentioned something in the beginning that I think I really need to dig in on. Third-party log ingestion. So a lot of buzz about this at Ignite. Let's take a look at a video of what some folks were saying about this at Ignite.
It's very good to have a single platform to manage everything, and of course it's very useful for us to have a platform like Cortex. Yes.
For me, that's a very critical new functionality.
We manage a lot of firewalls and endpoint products on behalf of our customers, and what to me is key in this development is that the beauty of XDR, which to me is the digital brain, right? The AI, is now available also for all these other vendors.
Advantage which Cortex is providing is analytics on top of the collected data, so we are really looking for that. It can pull up signals from different sources from our infrastructure stack, and then it can stitch together the story that we need.
It's exciting as well because it can help us to automate lots of things, and lots of things which is monotonous and we have to do on the daily basis. But using these, it will help us to enhance.
So as I mentioned, a lot of buzz about this third-party log ingestion.
Yes.
So why is this so interesting to customers? Why do we do this?
Look, unfortunately, not every company in the world is wall-to-wall Palo Alto Networks. In reality, from a network security perspective, there's a lot of heterogeneous environments out there. And what we want to provide to our customers is an ability for them to combine where they have Palo Alto Networks next-gen firewalls deployed with where maybe they don't yet. And to not force them to have blind spots, but rather ingest logs and alerts from those other network security products so they can get that end-to-end visibility and analytics and detection, response, investigation capability. So this really signals our intention to expand XDR beyond our sources of data and start pulling in other third-party sources of data that will really help drive the investigation analytics engines of XDR.
So I know a wise man who once told me that the first rule of roadmap is you don't talk about roadmap. But can we talk about some roadmap? Where are we going?
No, I was that wise man.
True.
All right, fine. Since you asked nicely, we got a couple of things that we're working towards. So one is that third-party data. We are actively looking at what the next sources of data are that we're going to ingest into XDR that will help further expand the analytics capabilities we have as well as investigation response capabilities. So exciting news to come relative to what those next sources are. On the other side, we're really excited. We're taking some of our top security researchers in the company, and we're going to start effectively offering them as a service on top of XDR. So customers who want to sign up for this will be able to get a threat hunting service using some of our brightest security minds applied against their environment to really help make sure that nothing gets by undetected and unresponded to. So really excited about that. It's in beta right now, and we expect that to be available in the coming months.
Wow. Lee, thank you so much for your time. I really appreciate you walking us through this really exciting release of Cortex XDR 2.0. And thank you all for joining us. We had an amazing opportunity to catch up with Nir and with Lee to learn about the really exciting launch of Cortex XDR 2.0. Please take some time to learn more by checking out the content that we've put together for you, and we'll see you again soon.